Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be tackling minimum support prices in India.
MSP.
MSP,
Yeah.
exactly. You've sent in an editorial, an FAQ, and some personal notes, so looks like we've got a lot to cover.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting about this topic is that it has such a strong human element to it.
Right.
We're not just talking about abstract economic policies.
Yeah.
We're talking about millions of farmers, the food we eat, and how agriculture works in one of the world's biggest economies.
It's a huge deal, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, MSP is essentially like a price floor
Right.
that the government sets for certain crops,
Yeah.
and it's meant to kind of shield those farmers from
Yeah.
those terrible moments when market prices crash and they're forced to sell at a loss.
Imagine pouring your heart and soul into growing a crop,
Right.
only to have to sell it for less than what it cost you to even produce it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of situation MSP is designed to prevent.
Yeah.
Especially for those 85% of India's farmers who have small or marginal land holdings,
Yeah.
which makes them incredibly vulnerable to those price fluctuations.
I remember reading about those tomato farmers in Andhra Pradesh
Yeah.
back in 2024 who basically had to give away their tomatoes.
Right.
It was devastating.
Yeah.
So legalizing MSP seems like a no-brainer, right?
Well,
It just seems like the obvious solution.
it's not that simple.
Okay.
That's where this deep dive gets really interesting.
Right.
Because there's a huge debate about whether legalizing MSP would actually be the silver bullet solution it's often made out to be.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
What are some of the strongest arguments in favor of legalizing MSP?
I think the most compelling argument is that it would provide a much-needed safety net for farmers.
Right.
Those who support legalization see it as a way to protect farmers not just from price crashes,
Yeah.
but also from those unpredictable global market fluctuations that are often completely beyond their control.
Yeah.
It's about ensuring their livelihoods
Right.
and providing some stability in a really uncertain profession.
And wouldn't it also maybe encourage farmers to grow a wider variety of crops?
Yeah, exactly.
Because right now it seems like the system is heavily skewed towards rice and wheat.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Legalizing MSP could incentivize farmers to branch out.
Right.
Grow things like pulses and oil seeds, which are so important for a balanced diet and for overall food security.
Yeah.
Imagine more vibrant
Yeah.
and resilient agricultural landscape in India.
Okay, so better for farmers' incomes,
Yeah.
better for what ends up on our plate,
Right.
and better for the environment,
Right.
potentially.
Yeah.
What else do proponents of this highlight?
Another big argument is that it could really help to reduce farmer debt and distress.
Yeah.
We know that farmer suicides are a tragic reality in India,
Yeah.
and many believe that legalizing MSP could be a part of the solution.
Right.
It's about providing that essential safety net
Yeah.
of a guaranteed price.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to think about the kind of pressure these farmers are under.
Yeah.
It makes sense that a guaranteed income could give at least some relief.
Right.
And maybe even encourage more young people to actually consider staying in agriculture or going into agriculture.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
And with more financial security, farmers might feel more confident investing in those better farming practices and new technologies that can help make the whole sector more efficient and more sustainable.
So that sounds like a win-win.
Yeah.
Are there any other arguments in favor of legalizing MSP?
Oh, yeah, there are a couple more.
Okay.
Proponents often point to the success of the fair and remunerative price, or FRP for sugarcane, as a model for how MSP could work.
Yep.
It has ensured profitability for sugarcane farmers and encouraged a lot of investment in the sector.
Okay.
Additionally, they argue that legal MSP could help to level the playing field by cutting out those exploitative middlemen who often buy from farmers at really low prices and then turn around and sell to consumers at much higher prices.
Right. Yeah.
It's about ensuring that more of that profit stays in the hands of the farmers.
Okay. So we got a pretty compelling case
Yeah.
for legalization here.
Yeah.
Increased farmer income, a more diverse and sustainable agricultural system, and potentially even lower food prices for consumers.
Yeah.
What's not to love?
Well, remember I said this deep dive gets interesting? There is another side to this story.
Okay.
And a whole host of concerns about the potential downsides of making MSP a legal mandate.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay.
What are the potential pitfalls here?
The biggest one is cost.
Okay.
Implementing legal MSP for all 23 crops would be incredibly expensive for the government.
Yeah.
One estimate put the cost at a staggering 21,000 crores per year.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Think about the logistics of actually trying to enforce this across India's vast and diverse agricultural landscape.
Yeah, because India's agricultural markets are so complex.
Exactly.
A lot of these transactions happen informally.
Yeah.
Making it incredibly difficult to track prices.
Right.
And had actually ensure that everyone's complying with the law.
And then there's the risk of inflation.
Okay.
If you mandate higher prices for crops,
Yeah.
it's likely that those higher prices will eventually be passed on to consumers.
Right.
Which could make food more expensive for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially those who can least afford it.
Right.
So we have to think about the impact on the entire food system.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's not just about the farmers.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between their needs
Absolutely.
and the needs of the consumers.
And then there are the international implications.
Okay.
Legalizing MSP might actually clash with World Trade Organization rules, which could lead to all sorts of trade disputes that could ultimately hurt India's economy in the long run.
So it's this balancing act between supporting domestic agriculture,
Yeah.
but also making sure that we're not jeopardizing
Yeah.
our relationships in the global trade world.
Exactly.
So we're supporting farmers,
yeah.
keeping food affordable,
Right.
and trying to avoid international trade wars.
It's a lot to juggle.
Quite a challenge. What other concerns have been raised?
Well, some critics worry that legal MSP could actually make some existing environmental problems even worse.
Okay.
If farmers are incentivized to focus on just those few crops with guaranteed high prices, it could lead to more over-extraction of groundwater and make India's agriculture even more vulnerable to climate change.
Just like what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Diversifying crops is really important.
Absolutely.
And a system that kind of incentivizes focusing on those few could actually prevent that diversification.
And then there's the issue of storage. If the government's obligated to buy all the crops offered at MSP, our current storage and distribution systems would be completely overwhelmed, which could lead to massive amounts of food being wasted, which is just something that we can't afford.
Right, and I've seen those images of grain overflowing from warehouses. It's just a stark reminder of how inefficient the system can be.
And finally, there's this concern that legalizing MSP wouldn't actually address those underlying structural problems in Indian agriculture.
Okay.
You know, it might just be a Band-Aid solution that focuses on price without really getting at the root causes of farmer distress.
Like lack of access to credit.
Exactly.
Limited market access.
Yeah.
The need for better infrastructure.
All of those things.
Right.
Some argue that legal MSP could even exacerbate some of these problems.
Wow.
By creating a system where the benefits flow mainly to those who are already well-connected.
Right.
Leaving the most vulnerable farmers even further behind.
So it seems like we've uncovered a real dilemma here.
Yeah.
Legalizing MSP has the potential to be a game changer for millions of farmers. But it also comes with this whole set of potential downsides that could have really far-reaching consequences for the entire country.
It's a multifaceted issue with no easy answers.
But surely there must be some alternatives.
Wow.
Right. Some kind of middle ground between doing nothing and implementing this full-fledged legal MSP system.
Yeah, there are some really interesting ideas out there.
Okay, let's dive into those.
All right.
Okay, so legalizing MSP has pros and cons. But, I mean, surely there are other ways to support farmers.
Yeah.
Without triggering all those potential downsides, right?
You're absolutely right. There are a bunch of other options. And thankfully, the sources that you've sent offer some really intriguing alternative approaches.
Okay, let's hear them.
All right.
What are some of these innovative solutions that could really transform Indian agriculture?
One idea that's been gaining a lot of traction is the Deficiency Price Payment System, or DPP for short.
DPP.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that one. How does that work?
So instead of the government having to actually buy the crops at MSP, they would simply pay farmers the difference between the market price and the MSP.
So if the market price for, let's say, wheat falls below the MSP, the farmer would get a direct payment to make up for that shortfall.
Exactly. It basically acts like a safety net.
Okay.
Without the government having to go through the whole process of procuring and storing all those crops.
Right.
And Madhya Pradesh is already piloting this kind of approach.
Oh, wow.
With a program called the Havantar Bhugtan Yojana,
So there's like real-world evidence to suggest this could actually be a viable option.
Yeah, exactly. And imagine pairing DPP with technology.
Okay.
We could use AI and these digital platforms to track market prices in real time.
Right.
So the whole system would become much more efficient and transparent.
That's a great point. No more relying on like outdated price data or those manipulative middlemen.
Right.
Technology could really level the playing field here.
Absolutely. And speaking of cutting out the middlemen, another idea is to decentralize procurement. So instead of everything being handled by the central government, why not give more power to local governments and communities to directly buy crops from farmers?
That makes a lot of sense. It would spread the benefits more evenly across the country. And could be particularly impactful in those regions that are often overlooked by that central procurement system.
Exactly. And Chhattisgarh has actually seen some really promising results.
Oh, wow.
With this kind of decentralized approach for paddy procurement.
So it's not just a theoretical idea.
Yeah, it's a model that's proving effective on the ground.
I love that we're talking about solutions that are actually being implemented successfully in different parts of India. It really shows that these alternatives are viable.
Right.
So what else have we got?
Another approach that's gaining a lot of momentum is strengthening farmer-producer organizations.
Like
FPOs for short.
FPOs, oh yeah. Those are like farmer cooperatives, right?
Exactly.
Where they can pool their resources and gain more bargaining power.
You got it. FPOs can help farmers to negotiate better prices.
Right.
Access markets more efficiently, and even invest in those shared resources like storage and processing facilities. And the government is really actively promoting FPOs right now with this ambitious goal of creating 10,000 across the country.
So there's a clear recognition that empowering farmers to work together is like a key part of the solution.
Absolutely. It's about creating a more equitable and resilient agricultural ecosystem overall.
And this actually ties into another really interesting area where technology can potentially play a transformative role.
Oh, yeah.
Blockchain.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so that's the technology behind cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
But how would that be applied to agriculture?
Well, imagine a digital ledger. It tracks every single step in the agricultural supply chain.
Okay.
From the farm all the way to the consumer.
Yeah.
This would bring a level of transparency and accountability.
Right.
That's just not possible with our current systems.
So no more kind of wondering where your food came from or how much the farmer was actually paid for it.
Exactly.
They would empower both the consumer and the farmer.
Absolutely. Consumers can make more informed choices.
Right.
And farmers have a lot more control over their livelihoods.
Okay, so we've got DPP, decentralized procurement, FPOs, and blockchain. What other innovative solutions are being discussed?
One area that's often overlooked is the environmental impact of agriculture.
Yeah.
What if we started incentivizing more sustainable practices?
Okay, so rewarding farmers for using less water. Reducing their reliance on chemical fertilizers or adopting organic farming methods.
Exactly. Imagine a system where access to MSP or other forms of government support was directly linked to farmers adopting those more eco-friendly practices.
Right.
That would be a really powerful incentive for farmers to go green.
And that aligns perfectly with the need for a more sustainable and resilient food system.
Absolutely.
Especially in the face of climate change.
Yeah.
Are there any examples of this happening in India already?
Oh, yeah, there are a few.
Okay.
Andhra Pradesh's zero-budget natural farming program is a great example.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It promotes those sustainable practices that reduce costs, improve soil health, and minimize the overall environmental impact.
So it's not just about getting a good price for their crops.
Right.
It's about ensuring that agriculture can actually thrive for generations to come.
Exactly.
What else can we do to strengthen the foundation of Indian agriculture?
Well, let's not forget the basics: storage and distribution. India loses a huge amount of food each year just to spoilage because of that inadequate infrastructure. Investing in better storage facilities. Cold chains for perishable goods. And more efficient transportation networks would be absolutely crucial.
It's so true. I've read that post-harvest losses are a massive problem in India. It's not just about growing enough food. It's about making sure that it actually gets to people's plates.
Exactly. And then there's this whole question of adding value to agricultural products. So instead of just selling raw commodities, What if farmers were supported in processing and packaging their produce?
Oh, okay. So like setting up small-scale processing units near farms.
Exactly.
So they can turn their tomatoes into sauce, their milk into their wheat into flour.
Exactly. It would create jobs,
Right.
boost incomes, and it would give farmers a much larger share of the profits.
Yeah.
It's about empowering them to capture more value from their hard work.
So it's about like taking control of that entire value chain from farm to fork.
Exactly.
I love that.
And finally, there's this question of subsidies. So instead of giving subsidies for inputs like fertilizers, which can be really inefficient and sometimes even harmful, why not shift to direct cash transfers?
So just give farmers the money and let them decide how best to use it.
Exactly. This approach gives them much more flexibility and control.
Right.
And Telangana's Raithu Bandhu program, which provides direct cash transfers to farmers, has actually seen a lot of success.
Wow. We've really explored a whole range of solutions here.
Yeah.
From high-tech innovations like blockchain to much more fundamental shifts in how we think about supporting farmers.
It's really exciting.
It really is. And it's clear that there are so many different pathways to create a more sustainable and equitable agricultural system.
Absolutely.
In India.
It's about being open to new ideas.
Yeah.
Learning from those successful models and tailoring solutions to those specific local contexts.
Right.
But there's one essential element that I think we haven't really touched on yet.
Oh, and what's that?
The human element. At the end of the day, any successful solution has to be built on trust.
Right.
Transparency.
Yeah.
And a genuine understanding of what farmers actually need.
Absolutely.
That means having strong monitoring systems to make sure that everything is fair.
Yeah.
And creating those effective mechanisms for farmers to raise any concerns they might have without fear of retribution. Their voices need to be heard.
Absolutely. We can have the best policies and the most cutting-edge technologies in the world.
Yeah.
But if they're not implemented in a way that actually empowers and respects the farmers, they're just not going to succeed. It's really been quite a journey exploring all these complexities of MSP in India.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about the heated debates, the potential downsides, and most importantly, all those innovative solutions out there.
It's really fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what really struck me is that there isn't just one answer, you know?
Right.
What works for one state or one crop might not be the right fit for another.
Yeah, it's about understanding all those little nuances.
Right.
And really tailoring those approaches.
Absolutely.
But, you know, beyond the policies and all the technology, there's something else that's been on my mind.
I think you know what you're getting at.
It's about the people at the heart of all this.
The farmers?
The farmers, exactly.
Right.
Their voices need to be at the center of this conversation.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're the ones facing these challenges every single day.
Right.
They're the ones who know what actually works and what doesn't.
Their knowledge and experience are so valuable.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they're not just passively receiving these policies, but that they're actively shaping the future of agriculture in India.
And, you know, we started this whole deep dive with what seemed like a pretty simple question. Should India legalize MSP?
Right.
But, like we've uncovered, it's so much more complicated than that.
It really is.
There are really strong arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
And a whole range of possibilities in between.
It's a multifaceted issue with huge implications.
Yeah.
For the economy, for society, and for the environment.
It really is.
The challenge is finding that right balance, you know?
Right.
Balance that supports the farmers, ensures that everyone has enough to eat, protects our planet, and creates this thriving and resilient agricultural sector.
And that's a challenge that goes way beyond India.
Oh, absolutely.
It's something the whole world is facing.
Yeah.
Especially as our population grows and climate change becomes more urgent.
We need to completely rethink our food systems from the ground up and find solutions that are both sustainable and equitable.
It's a big task.
It is a huge task, but it's essential. It's for the future of humanity.
And so to you, our listener, we leave you with this question. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
After this deep dive into the world of MSP in India, what do you think is the best path forward? What would a truly just and sustainable agricultural system actually look like?
Keep exploring these questions, keep learning, and stay engaged with these really important issues.
Yeah, because the future of food really depends on it.
It does.